Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today's story is emotional, heart-touching, and full of unexpected feelings. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. The title of today's story is The First Night of My Plus-Size Wife. It was the night of my arranged marriage. The house was finally quiet after a long and tiring wedding day. Guests had gone home. The music had stopped, and everyone was resting. But my heart was beating very fast. I was sitting alone in my room, thinking about my new life. I had never talked to my wife properly before marriage. In our family, arranged marriages were very common. My parents had chosen her for me. To be honest, I was nervous. Very nervous. All day, my friends had been teasing me. Some were laughing. Some were making jokes. And some were saying strange things. One of my cousins came close to me and whispered, "Bro, your bride looks different from the girls you usually like." Everyone laughed. I forced a smile, but deep inside, I started feeling uncomfortable. I had seen my bride only once before marriage, and even then, she was wearing a veil. I couldn't see her clearly, but one thing was obvious. She was plus size. I know this sounds wrong now, but at that time, I cared too much about appearance. I thought beauty only meant being slim and perfect. That night, I sat on the edge of the bed, waiting for her. The room was decorated with flowers. Soft lights covered the walls. The air smelled like roses. Then slowly, the door opened. She entered quietly, wearing a beautiful white dress. Her hands were shaking slightly. She looked nervous too. She sat on the other side of the bed. Silence filled the room. I didn't know what to say. And maybe she didn't know either. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. Only the sound of our breathing could be heard. Then finally, she spoke softly. "You must be disappointed." Her words shocked me. I looked at her. She still had her veil covering most of her face. "What do you mean?" I asked. She smiled sadly. "I know I'm not the kind of girl most men dream about." Her voice was calm, but I could feel pain hidden behind those words. I stayed silent, because honestly, I didn't know how to respond. Then slowly she removed her veil, and for a moment, I froze, not because she was unattractive, but because her eyes were full of innocence. There was kindness in her face, and there was sadness too. She looked beautiful, not in the fake social media way, not like actresses or models, but real, warm, human. Still, I couldn't stop overthinking. My mind was confused. I kept remembering the jokes my friends made earlier. I kept thinking about what people would say. Then she looked down and quietly said, "You don't have to pretend." I understand. I felt guilty immediately. "Why are you saying that?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Because people have judged me my whole life." Those words hit me hard. She continued, "In school, classmates made fun of me. At weddings, relatives compared me to other girls. Even during shopping, people stared at me. I became used to it." I looked at her carefully. For the first time that day, I stopped focusing on her body, and I started listening to her heart. She smiled weakly, but I always prayed for one thing. "What?" I asked. "A husband who respects me." Silence filled the room again. That moment changed something inside me. I suddenly realized how unfair people can be. We judge others so quickly. We create beauty standards. We laugh at people. And sometimes we forget they also have feelings. She wasn't asking for luxury. She wasn't asking for perfection. She only wanted respect. And honestly, she deserved it. I slowly moved closer and said, "You don't have to worry." She looked at me with surprise. I continued, "I may not know you well yet, but I promise I will always respect you." For the first time that night, she smiled genuinely, and that smile was beautiful. We started talking. At first, the conversation was awkward, but slowly it became comfortable. She told me about her childhood. She loved reading books. She loved cooking, and she wanted to become a teacher one day. I was surprised. She was intelligent, funny, and extremely kind. Time passed quickly. Without realizing it, we talked for hours. Then suddenly she laughed at one of my silly jokes. A real laugh, not a fake polite laugh. And honestly, that moment felt special. I started forgetting all the negative thoughts I had earlier, because now I was seeing her as a person, not as a body, not as a size, but as a human being. At one point, she looked at me carefully and asked, "Can I ask you something honestly?" "Of course," I replied. "Were you upset after seeing me?" Her question made me uncomfortable, because the truth was, yes, at first I was, but I didn't want to lie. So I answered honestly, "Yes, maybe for a few moments." She looked away, but before she could misunderstand me, I continued. Because I was immature. I cared too much about what people think. But after talking to you, I feel ashamed of myself. She looked back at me. Her eyes became emotional. I smiled softly. "You're a good person, and I think that matters more than appearance." For a few seconds, she didn't say anything. Then tears slowly filled her eyes. "No one ever said that to me before," she whispered. That sentence broke my heart. I realized how deeply words can affect someone. Many people spend years carrying pain caused by insults and judgment. And sometimes one kind sentence can heal part of that pain. That night, we continued talking until late. We shared stories. We shared dreams. And slowly, the distance between us disappeared. Outside, the world was sleeping. But inside that small room, two strangers were becoming friends. And maybe that's where real love begins. Not with appearance, not with perfection, but with understanding. The next morning, my cousin came into my room with a teasing smile. "So bro," he said, "how was your first night?" I smiled, but this time my answer was different. It was peaceful. He laughed. "Only peaceful?" I looked at him seriously and said, "She's one of the kindest people I've ever met." He became silent, because maybe he expected jokes. But I had changed. Days passed, then weeks, then months, and slowly our relationship became stronger. She supported me during difficult times. She took care of my parents. She motivated me whenever I felt hopeless. Whenever I came home tired from work, she greeted me with a smile. And somehow, my stress disappeared. One day I looked at her while she was laughing in the kitchen, and suddenly I realized something. I had fallen in love with her, not because of makeup, not because of beauty standards, not because of society, but because of her heart. And honestly, that love felt real. A year later, we attended a wedding together. Some people stared at her. Some whispered, just like before, but this time I held her hand proudly, because I finally understood something important. Real beauty is not about size. Real beauty is kindness, respect, loyalty, and the ability to make someone feel safe. That night, while returning home from the wedding, she looked at me and smiled. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. I smiled back. "I'm thinking about our first night." She laughed softly. "You were very nervous," she said. "I know," I replied. "And now?" I looked at her and answered honestly. "Now I feel lucky." She stayed silent for a moment, then rested her head gently on my shoulder. And in that moment, I realized something beautiful. Sometimes life gives us unexpected people. People we never imagined. People who don't match our unrealistic expectations. But those same people can change our hearts forever. So never judge someone only by appearance. Because behind every face, there is a story. And behind every heart, there are feelings. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this emotional story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more English learning stories. See you in the next video.